Hi there, this is Grumpy Opinions. Let's get on with the show.
Hey folks, well, I've got a bit of free time, so it's back to the land of reviewing videos. Remember when I used to do that a lot? Anyway, Snowpiercer is a Netflix show based on the quirky sci-fi movie about the last survivors of a worldwide snowy apocalypse, all living on a giant train that runs all the way around the world. You know the drill, even though it's been quite a while since my last review of this show. Episode 208, The Eternal Engineer, starts out by following Roche, going all about his day with his Wilfordite wife and stroppy teenage daughter, or worrying about the train's factionalisation, especially on this difficult day as they've got the funeral for all the dead brakemen, and tensions are high, Leighton and the big boy aren't seeing eye to eye, and there's definitely something up at both ends of the train. Melanie's stroppy daughter's getting cross with all the secrecy and Wilford's dismissing tech reports, and that's right up until Icy Bob comes wandering down the top of the train, super cold and near death. Which seems doubly ironic considering Josie's almost completely healed up from her cold and suntan, and even Wilford himself is being really pally with her, as are the creepy scientists. And Josie herself's a bit weirded out, but she's also worked out that somehow this treatment has made her immune to the cold. Something crazy. Meanwhile, back up at the Snowpiercer end, things are going kinda bad because the train's flooding due to burst pipes. It's all up to a jammed vent up the very front of the train, and when Nikolai manages to free it, he realises this is actually sabotage, and suddenly all his Wilford Uber Alice sentiment vanishes in a puff of coin. But it turns out the vent isn't the only issue, and Minnie Mel's getting really cross about the weirdnesses because delays might impact the rendezvous with her mum, and clearly Wilford and Katy Perry are in on the plot together, since it was also partly a broken circuit that only Wilford has a spare for, and without which the whole train's about to go kaput. So of course, the only option is to turn to Wilford, who's more than happy to be snuck on board, but of course, loose talk gets out quick, which was clearly his plan all along, and then the W's are talking about having an uprising. But it turns out when they connect the God module, everything goes boom because Melanie's patch-up works don't compute with Wilford's box, so they need to have a full restart of the engine, while Big Alice shunts the whole train for him and needing every hand on deck to get it done. And then once it all goes dark, it becomes clear that it was Wilford's plan all along, and he comes in, swoops in, saving the day as the heroic saviour, and gives the order to restart the engine, and then after that the whole train is all just about Big W. And everybody knows they've been beaten, so Leighton resignedly goes to the head of the train and fires up a flare to tell the tailies that everything's gone to hell. And after that, the aftermath. Leighton's off in chains to live out his days in Big Alice, while Roche's family get put in the drawers just to make sure he stays in check. And meanwhile, Ben and Javi are back up in the engine, but they're under the control of Wilford, who's happily back in the big chair, King of Snowpiercer, once again. So what did I think? Well, I'm going to be honest, this wasn't a bad episode, and I'm actually saying that having seen it once about a year and odds ago, and once again this week, because this is as far as I've actually got with the show last time, and ironically, I actually had this review started written back when I was covering it before, and then life got in the way, and I managed to lose the files for it, so I've had to start again, and it's taken till now, and I had to rewatch the episode because I just couldn't remember what happened in it. And yeah, it's an apt title, The Eternal Engineer, because once again we're seeing that Wilford is the man in charge, with Sean Bean hamming it up to the nines like as this guy who clearly is the smartest guy on the show at this point, since Melanie's busy off larping the long dark in a snowy substation. And conversely, we're seeing yet again, as I've said many times, that Leighton's kind of an idiot. I mean, we've seen the repercussions of how he's out of his depth he is, and let's be honest, Leighton's a detective, he's not a politician or a businessman, and this sort of grandstanding and high-end chess moves are so beyond him that he's as confused as he looks. And actually, the actor actually looked kind of ill during this. I mean, maybe it's just me, but he actually doesn't look well. Similarly, Ben's cowed, and we always knew that Yavi was kind of a simpering nerd, and the show has a really good time to show all this, and to show the manipulation of Josie as well, who's clearly not having a great time of it, but I don't think she's quite on board with the Big Alice crew as they'd like to think. And it's also nice to see that LJ and Haircut finally cop to doing a hard day's work and then have a bit of a wee smooch. I mean, she's probably going to murder him and cut his willy off and keep it in a box because, I mean, that's kind of her MO. But yeah, well, there you go. As I said, decent production value, good acting, some good special effects, and yeah, all in all, pretty solid episode. But despite that, there is one big sticking point in this episode. And I mean, this, as I said, this is one episode that's basically one long, thrilling, tension-filled scene. And it's hard to cut from like that to this. And yeah, I mean, we're doing basically what the Battlestar Galactica finale did, of skipping through a lot of important events to short-circuit storytelling. And you might not know what I mean. Anyway, I mean, this is kind of a spoiler for the epic show Battlestar Galactica, like the remake one by Ron Moore, which has been out for quite a while, more than a decade. So anyway, skip to this timestamp to avoid spoilers, because basically it is 3.5 seasons of amazing TV with a slightly meh final half season, and you should definitely check it out. Last warning. Okay, basically in the finale of Battlestar Galactica, everybody in the space fleet, they arrive on Earth, only turns out it's not Earth as they were expecting, it's Earth 50,000 years ago or more, basically, and instead of setting up a colony there, they decide between one scene and the next that everybody on the space fleet has decided they're going to throw away technology, autopilot the empty ships away into the sun, and live as yokel medieval farmers, inbreeding with the proto-civilized humanoids wandering around on the planet. Now, that might sound a little crazy to you, and it is. And it's kind of a weird major decision that all gets decided off camera between two scenes and dropped on the audience, like, literally, as soon as the big action finale sequence is done, just before the final scenes of everyone saying bye to each other and going in different directions. And similarly here on Snowpiercer, we jump straight from Wilford doing a tech fix on the engine and saving the day to Leighton literally in handcuffs being about to be led off to Big Alice and Tashman Cop being taken away to see his family being put in cryosleep. And maybe being put there himself, I mean, it's a little bit unclear. Now, I don't mind that jump too much. I mean, it's not as big a weird cut than Battlestar Galactica. Otherwise, you would probably have needed a load of scenes of the cast all arguing and coming to decisions. And I don't really trust this writer room to do that very well, but it is just a wee bit lazy. And yeah, it's a minor gripe, and it isn't the worst idea. And I know also it's a kind of a narrative shortcut and one that's been clumsily handled, because one thing was I didn't actually realise that Leighton was wearing handcuffs when I saw this, and there's no caption saying this is 2 days later or anything, partly because we're still in this vague timeline of when they get back to Melanie, and we really don't know when this fits, because we know that obviously she's seen the train go shooting by at the end of her episode, but presumably we're still before that, so we must be in the couple of days of silence before the scheduled contact and hearing the train rumble past. And yeah, it's just all a bit unintuitive and scrappy, and frankly, I think it might have been a bit better to have left this till the end of the episode and start next time with a flashback or something, but yeah, who knows. Anyway, I'm actually glad to have rewatched this, and I'm glad to be getting around to reviewing it. In a weird way, feels a bit like coming home. So till next time, these have been my grumpy opinions.